This is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster, and this is not clickbait for Star Trek 14 or 4, 13 or 4. In fact, in a similar way to this other clickbait thing. It's not clickbait. So I'm going to explain myself. All right. For 6 months, there's been a clickbait thing going around viral about the Orville season 4. There is no Orville season 4. So, as a Star Trek person over there, it's not happening. So, as a Star Trek like thing, there isn't one. They should make that. Yeah, they got it wrong. An actor at a convention said something, went all over the place, and now another actor at a convention said nope, and the producers are not saying anything on the Orville. So I decided that this is not a recap of that. As we know, nothing's happening with the Orville season 4. But what about Star Trek 4? Star Trek 4, the alternate reality J.J. Abrams' 4th movie that's been in development hell for almost 9 years. I have news on that. And unlike that viral podcast thing, which was similar to Star Trek Beyond back in the day, about 10 years ago, where an intrepid Star Trek fan decided that because his website, Star Trek Beyond, had been taken down, been ordered cease and desist by Paramount, he decided to take upon himself to say, oh, I pitched to Star Trek in 2015. He did not. No fans can pitch to Star Trek. No. He did not. That's the long and the short of that story. He did not. It says on their website, no, do not send fan submissions to Paramount or CBS or Viacom. We will throw them out. We won't even read them. In the 90s, they had a writing contest and all that. I was in the writing contest. So for Deep Space Nine and Voyager. And so, yeah, we know. But not anymore. So we're in the know. Already we were years ago. And so we do our Star Trek fan film things, following the trades and the trends, and decided last year that Star Trek Legacy would be funny to do as a Starship Locations Legacy, and encourage them to do more of that, because we kind of encouraged them to put Prodigy on Netflix. We were one of the people that said that, and they did. They put Prodigy on Netflix. So we'll see about Lower Decks and others. They are continuing. They're going to do Lower Decks as a spin-off called Station Starbase 80. It's in production. There's a spin-off of Discovery. I don't know why they're bothering with that. Setting Starfleet Academy, but in the 32nd century that nobody cares about. That's probably a really bad idea. They should set it in the 2400s and have it be about, that time after Picard season 3. That's what it should be. Like ours is Starship Legacy, in our series. So it should be like ours, because of course it should be like a fan series. Yes. Well, anyway, the Star Trek 4 or Star Trek 13, the J.J. Abrams Star Trek reboot universe, which is its own thing because everything does not make any sense. If you go back to the beginning of that, it really makes no sense. The whole premise, and there's been numerous videos on why. So to say, Kirk was too young to command the Enterprise. The characters were too young to do what they were doing. They mixed up the relationships to make them goofy and had them do it. And the new reboots since 2017 with Discovery and the others have attempted to reinvent the wheel and try to. Strange New Worlds is a spin-off of Discovery as well, said taking place around that same time period as the movies. If they really want to do that, they should just do a Strange New Worlds motion picture. And just have it be Strange New Worlds with that cast as a movie. That's what they should do. That's what they won't do. That's what they should do. We are weeks away from the premiere of Section 31, the Star Trek TV movie, and it's another one. It's not related to the other ones. It's related to the Discovery future era, where she goes back to the past somehow. If you have to do homework, like Mark Card said, if you have to do homework to figure out why this character is there and what they're doing, you're going to be lost. But if they're putting this in theaters, it's not going to make any sense at all. They're putting it on streaming. I will review it, but that is not the new Star Trek movie. The new Star Trek movie has been kicked around for years, ever since 2019, 2020, when several big-name directors and ideas were attached, including Quentin Tarantino, who wanted to do Pulp Fiction in space. They said no. But Tarantino's story ended up in one of my fan films. So yeah. I adapted his story. Basically, it's not his story. I just adapted it. I said, what, Pulp Fiction in space? That'd make a funny episode of my fan film series, Starship Destinations. So it was. It became Starship Locations Destinations. Was an episode where they go to the mob planet. But it's updated to the 2400s, and they go down there, and they have to find rescue the commander and from the mob and bring him back to the ship, basically. Straightforward enough Star Trek story. Why not? I also did a Roman planet one and did a bunch of other planets in there. Did some Marcel Sportius stuff. Did some Pineal Earth stuff. Yeah, and I've since gone on and done other Pineal goofy stuff, and done it in a way that you don't need to know about Starship Locations, the fan film series from before the fan films or the storybooks to know them. I've written scripts for my fan film stories where you can watch the story independently and you'll get it. It isn't just so full of member berries that you can't tell what's going on. Even the silly Picard LaForge story idea after the Space Teddy Bear episode. Even there, you can tell. You can just watch the episode and go like, "Oh, okay, I get it. This is sort of a shipping story where Picard and LaForge had a different relationship. Their past was different, and this other one with a giant spaceship, Earth-sized spaceship in it. Sure, that's another story that happened." And you watch the episode and you go, "Oh, yeah, it's interesting." We get to know these characters many of you for the first time, and that works. The trouble with what they've been doing for 9 years, it's been to 4 or 5 different screenwriters, 4 or 5 different directors over there at Star Trek 4 here. Still bound to Star Trek 4 because my fan films have gone beyond that and done their own thing. And we want to get back to the plot of what if we do fan films next. This is just an update on that movie. And they're doing a bunch of other stuff coming up, but it's problematic, I think, as a Star Trek shill, yeah. So I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna do like the Larry Mimichek show, the Trekspert show, and I'm gonna come out and do my own. So this is update stuff on the Star Trek world instead of the fan films, which is I'll just put it on the Chimera channel. And you can watch one of my other update things. It's 2025, so what's Star Trek up to? Let's find out. So I looked it up, and it seems not much on that movie. After the writer's strike, it kind of killed the other idea of doing that origin story idea, and I told them back in the day that was a bad idea. Yet another origin story, another Star Trek Discovery, basically. Another Star Trek, the beginning thing. Again. Don't do that. No, go forward. They did plan to do briefly. It was fan suggested, of course, and some of the actors liked it. They planned to do a Star Trek Legacy. That actually was a plan, but the directors chickened out. We're not going to do Star Trek Legacy. We would the rights for the game that apparently had the same name would be in contention, and they'd have to pay royalties to the game, like they had to pay royalties to the guy that wrote Lower Decks to have a Lower Decks show. They had to pay royalties to the guys. So eventually they had to include an episode dealing with Lower Decks characters from that episode, which they did, and then just never mention it again. So partly on our suggestion. Interestingly enough, they're listening to a fan film guy that hasn't done a Star Trek story for Star Trek since 1995, but they're listening to him anyway, so fine, why not? Voyager, no. Yeah, Voyager episode. It's been a long time. But yes, unlike that Gameld guy that claimed he pitched for Star Trek, I did. DS9 and Voyager. And back when you could do that, and it was not accepted, it was rejected. But they took elements of my idea. They liked the two ideas, and they took elements of it. And a lot of those elements, I would say roughly a third of them ended up in the Deep Space Nine episode, The Ship, which was the one where they go down to the planet, the female Vord is there, and they have like the Cisco and them got to find this ship that's crashed on the planet. They got to go down. It's basically the ending of that story that I wrote. It was called Fearful Symmetry in my version. And yes, there was a Pocket Books version as well, but they just stole the title because they got it from my other version of Fearful Symmetry. From a Blake poem, so I took it from a Blake poem. This other person did as well. They did a Borg one. I also did a Borg one. Called it the same thing because no originality. The Voyager one was called The Arbiter, and that was for the very beginning of Voyager, because it just started. And that had timestamps, 2 different seasons on it, and they liked the Tuvok episode, but they just couldn't put it in there with... there were other Tuvok episodes that season, and then the next season. There was more, and although those extra notes have disappeared, so they cannot be confirmed. Yeah, but it was looked at, it was at the top of the pile, and they sent it back, rejected. But they said, yeah, you understand it. Yeah, you're a fan. Nowadays, they would call that shipping. They would say, oh, that's shipping. It was called KS before. There wasn't much TNG in the DS9. It was shipping. Will Wheaton, he's on about shipping all the time. He just mentions the main characters and shipping. Ship the characters. Relationshipping the characters. And that's what fan films kind of are anyway. Relationshipping my own characters. And I explain it enough that you get it. You don't have to do homework. You just watch my fan films and go, oh, okay, that's what he's doing. It's explained. It's fine. Yeah. So yeah, part 4. Now, so I'm not an expert. I'm just a Trek fan, but a trekker. Yeah. But I actually have done some of the legwork. Right. But yes, Mimichek's older than me. A lot older. I'm the same age as Will Wheaton. He's a little younger than me, just a little bit. So, and if I was on Star Trek, which I wasn't, but if I was on Star Trek, I would have been related to the Joshua Albert character who was killed in the Cobalt Starburst. How random is that? And Nick Locarno would have been there, and he would have been one of my characters that I ship. I ship him all the time. Back. And his wife. I married him off to Esri. Anyway, that's the fan films, but yeah. They do make a comeback in the Legacy premiere this season. And the Locarnos are in that episode dealing with the Rumbly the Q being. They deal with her in that episode. Rumbly the Q being. So I go forward. I said it, but I pitched. But yeah, they don't accept fan submissions. But on the Trek core site, I had the Chimera thing, and I pitch it all the time on that. And they're reading it, and they're reading the other stuff. And back in the day, they had the chat room things, and the internet was smaller in the 90s, and you could actually talk to the producers of Deep Space Nine. And I remember I was one of the people on there doing a rant screed about why Deep Space Nine's finale had some weak points that they didn't really appreciate, but I did it anyway. Well, yeah, the Deep Space Nine finale in the 90s. And I was like, yeah, and actually they kind of didn't care, which was kind of amusing. And then they went and did this other one in 2019 where they were like, so it's the same kind of thing, goofy thing going on. So you have Brian Fuller, who made Discovery and then left, who made the pilot and left. He was going to do an anthology, so actually Section 31 is kind of part of that anthology. But he has nothing to do with it. They just took his idea and said, oh, let's set it in this time period. The lost years, let's set it there. No. Stop, guys. Yeah. We've been doing this for almost 4 years, so just hire us. We'll do some stuff. Yeah. And then I get some money. I get paid as a script writer, but not showrunner, because that would be silly. But no, they won't. Anyway, so there is about as much production going on with Star Trek 4 as there is the Orville. To say there's nothing going on. As we enter 2025, they have canceled Star Trek 13, Star Trek 4, the origin story. So that's all they say. That the 2 or 3 sites that say, we've dropped that director, that writer. They keep adding directors to these stories, and that's not how it works in Hollywood. You first have scriptwriter. Okay, you have producer, the showrunner. Showrunner comes in, tells the producers who would get the money. The executive producer gets the money. They had to do something. Usually, to get the money, I had to do a script treatment and then a script. They have struggled with a script for this movie for 9 years. I probably did a similar blog to this last year, saying like, okay, this is what they're doing wrong. They're trying to reinvent the other stuff they've done. Stop doing that. I know Hollywood loves to do that. No more Wrath of Khan. No more supervillain that wants to destroy the Earth again. No more time travel to the current time period. You've done that to death. Did that in Picard season 2, and even though there was a Kal Kat cameo in that, I did not want you to do that for the whole season. You did it anyway. But yes, there was a pseudo Kal Kat. What really? Just NDA wise, I wasn't really there. But it was. And then you have your Kal Kat appearing as Kal in Discovery in the 32nd century as well. Different character playing him. I could have done it, guys. I'm around. Anyway, but yeah, I could have done it. That would have been fun. I like that they did include the Guardian of Forever, Kirk God, Brian Story character. Even though it wasn't Brian Story playing him, it was somebody playing Brian Story. They could have got Brian Story. He's around. Yeah, just met with him not too long ago. On the set of Starship Locations. Can you read the latest Starship Locations? On the set. The shipping. More of that shipping stuff. But some of my own stuff. So anyway, Starship 4... the way they do it, they producer, showrunner, executive producer, then director, the head writer, writer's room guys, then the writers, putting together the story. So what they've got is some writers and some directors, no showrunner. Appears they don't have a showrunner, and they're running around like a chicken with his head cut off, going. All right, well we have some writers with some ideas, and they've come in and they've pitched. That they're actually in Hollywood that have come in and pitched. And we haven't liked any of them. And then we keep going, origin. Don't do an origin story. Guys, don't. And that's just a rumor. See, unlike that Orville season 4 thing where that wasn't even less of a rumor. There wasn't even a story. There's not even a script. There aren't. If there are season 4 scripts for Orville, I doubt it. Disney has not said anything. There wasn't a D3 about it. McFarlane wasn't there. That story has even less legs than this one, because there's not even a script to look at. This one at least had a script. There was a script. Don't film it. Don't do it. Don't. Don't do it. And they looked at it and they agreed. I didn't communicate with them, but they looked at it, and I can agree that yes, what they had in mind for that premise, if I was the showrunner, and I'm not, I would have rejected it immediately and said, no, this is not good. No. You're not going to do it again. Stop with the Khan shit. It's over. Wrath of Khan is its own thing. Stop doing that over and over again. Then you got to put him on a planet and have him be like a mysterious bad guy and do it. Oh, God. I can give it away. Okay. It was gonna be. Remember that Marlon Brando movie where he's on the planet and it's like the animals that come to life and he's like the evil Khan like bad guy, sort of like pre-Khan bad guy. The planet, it was called Island of Dr. Moreau. That's basically what they had in mind, with a little bit of Art of Darkness, which they've been trying to redo since they attempted Heart of Darkness with what became Star Trek Insurrection. Okay, that wasn't a particularly good movie. It was okay. It had some of my stuff in it. It had the hacky sack scene. Had that. I can't take all the credit for the hacky sack scene because it was Two Car Garage that suggested it and they put it in the movie. That wasn't me, but I was involved in the hacky sack scene in 1998. But yes. or at least the suggestion of it, because you could suggest stuff to them back in the 90s. You could totally just suggest it. They would use it. There were a couple of fans back in the days in the 90s that their stuff ended up on Star Trek. Like there's a guy that suggested a guy caught in the transporter and used the transporter to survive. That became a Scotty episode of Next Generation. So it's been known to happen. Yeah, the apple tossing bag scene is right out of our fan films. How did they even know that? They did it in Star Trek '09. He whips the apple out. He's like chewing on it. He's tossing it. It's like, what? How did they even know that? It's remarkable because it was only showed in Star Crackers. And they would have had to have an early print of the video of that. The only way that works is J.J. Abrams must have known me at some point and put that in the movie. That's the only way. How would he have seen it other than that? He doesn't. I don't think so. So, wow. Or of us. It's a very unique scene, you know. The Borg were similar to the robotic zombies that attacked the high school on location, Starship Locations, and they used the Borg a year later on Star Trek Next Generation. There they are. There's the Borg, the zombie guy. Of course, they're probably thinking the same thing, you know, zombie Terminator kind of guys. Yeah, same wavelength. So we're on the same wavelength. So yeah, so we know. But this movie, this idea was bad, really, really bad. Don't do it. It will fail. And I know where they got some of it. They got some of it from the rant blogs. Because years ago, in 2018 or 2019, there was talk of a Island of Dr. Moreau type spoofy parody April Fool's thing almost. That was a running gag on TrekCore, and I was involved in that. So they just took that and said, that'll be the next movie. And they're like, no, it doesn't work as a movie because it's a build your own adventure. There's no plot. It's just, oh, this guy took the story and ran, and this guy took the story and ran. It has no plot. You can't just put them on the planet and do that. It doesn't work that way. What you need for a Star Trek feature film is for it to be epic and different and outgoing. The reason Wrath of Khan worked as a concept was not that Khan could punch people hard, and it wasn't that Khan was better or something. It's the backstory and the homework they did to bring that story into the present at the time. It's what the character was like back then. And since Wrath of Khan did not work because he's the bad guy and he threatens Kirk and they have a submarine battle. Wrath of Khan worked because Ricardo Montalban and William Shatner were put in a situation where they sort of come back as middle-aged men, and they do like the old, the classic, it was a classic Arthurian legend kind of thing. These two old enemies from the original show come back 15 years later. They're now middle-aged, and they have to fight each other. That's how that newer version of it, the Into Darkness, completely missed what Khan was, because Khan was not a young upstart and didn't know Kirk at that point. He was in the stasis chamber in the other story. And they didn't need to do the homework because they explained it in the first 5 minutes when Chekhov beams down to the planet and goes, oh no, the Botany Bay, it's a dangerous vessel and it's going to threaten us. That's all you needed to know. And then the rogue Khan guy reveals himself. He's going to seize the ship. That's all you need. That's how you do it. And that was just brilliant on the part of Nicholas Meyer and the direct production team of that movie. Because that kind of idea, this Arthurian older guy's got a middle-aged captain's got to come back together to fight his nemesis, is a classic idea. It just works. It just works. It's great. It works, and you can't put lightning back in the bottle and do it again. It just doesn't. So stop. I know several movies have done this kind of thing, and it doesn't work. The only way, like an Orville spin-off thing would work is if, for that show, is a movie. They should do a feature film, and maybe they should do the Dr. Moreau thing. Oh yeah, they should steal that script and use it. Sure, why not? Anyway, until they come up with something that doesn't suck, I'll let you know. Live long and prosper.